right, what's up, guys? So we're gonna do a hamstring, well, posterior day for the most part today, right? But basically hamstrings, glutes. Marina's what, 1 week post-show? You know, whatever, like 10 days after her show. So she's still in a mode where she's kind of taking it easy right now. We're trying to get proper recovery post-show. So we're not gonna be going too hard. I'm gonna keep her far from failure today, or at least not hitting failure. Right? Yeah, not hitting failure, but at the end of the day, it's just an opportunity for us to kind of get into what is eventually going to be her off season and some of the training that we'll be doing for her off season to help bring up her posterior, specifically her glutes and her hamstrings.
Glutes and hams, baby.
All right, so here we got the hamstring curls. Started off with lying hamstring curls because we're trying to hit that muscle in the shortened position, which this does relatively well for us. Few things to consider is making sure that we keep our abs braced during this so we stay in and we're not, those hips aren't flying all over the place. So I usually tell clients, keep the abs braced, keep your knees pegged into that pad so that we can keep that pelvis really locked into place as best we can. A little bit of movement there is fine. Some people get really anal about a little bit of movement there. A little bit of movement there is fine. And then I'm usually a bigger fan of keeping that input pad much higher, right? Some people have that input pad much lower back. I want it as high out as we can get it, regardless of what your limb length is there. I want that input pad closer to that point of axis as far as the knee is concerned that we can get it. Go ahead. This is just a warm up set and then we'll work into some, we'll probably go 3 sets here with like a 3 RIR, reps in reserve. So we're not taking it to failure.
Which peg do you have this on?
The middle rung.
Oh.
Super light, right?
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be for her. A, this is a warm-up set. B, like I said, we're trying to keep her away from needing to recover to such an extent at this point. That was a little bit much for a hamstring curl. I mean, for a warm-up, I should say.
Why'd you do so
12
many?
reps. Because my hamstrings are old and I sit all day. So I come here from, you know, sitting on the computer all day. My hamstrings are really fucking just, my ass, I'm sitting on my ass, I'm sitting on my hamstrings all day. They're just not mobile and then they get super tight. And the only time I've ever had anything happen in the gym was with my hamstrings pulling it on that machine.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that. And
it was fucking scary and it sucked balls and it hurt and I don't want it to happen again. So the way that I usually program for you guys as far as clients are concerned is we'll do these sets of 12, 10, 8, and these are usually our sets where we'll keep reps in reserve. So for me, usually those first couple of sets are even more warm-up set-ish, right? Like I might go a little bit less on that 12 and 10, and then I'm going a little bit heavier, really trying to find that 3 RIR, 2 RIR zone. And on plans, I usually put anywhere between 1 to 3 RIR. So again, 1 to 3 reps left in reserve, and that's where we're cutting the set. So again, at 8, when we get to 8, I'm really gonna search for that point where maybe I'm closer to like that 2 to 1 reps left in reserve. But the first couple of sets here, the 12 to 10, I'm gonna say probably closer to like that 3 reps in reserve point.
Yep.
So second set now, we're going for 10 reps. We'll start to add weight here to this top rung, right, to give us a little bit more at the top, right, when she's fully in that shortened position. So again, like we said before, we're trying to get in that shortened position here on the first exercise, loading this, which is the cool thing about the Prime machines.
At the bottom?
Nope.
Right?
That is...
Like, doesn't it...
Oh, no, you're right.
Right?
Yeah, it's in the length
heavier
range.
Here.
Yeah, that's at the beginning range, you're right. Bada boom. Is that 5?
6.
7. 8. 9. Boom. Oof. 3. 4. 5. That's the cool thing about the Prime equipment, by the way. Or previous to Prime, the brand was called Stride, I think. Strive, maybe? It was old school. It was like white with red, yellow, green. Like it was a little bit of a different look. This is like the newer, improved version, I guess you could say, and it caught a lot of popularity. So now you find this in a lot of gyms. But the cool thing about this equipment is that you get to load through those different ranges, right? The lengthened range, the middle range, and the shortened range, right? Based on how you load each peg. So it's cool. We have clients that are in different gyms like this that have the different types of equipment so that we could literally bias different areas. It almost makes it like a different exercise to be able to progress. So we might have somebody progress through just that mid rung, right? And we'll just load things on the mid rung, right? And then once somebody's basically gone through all the adaptation there, all the progress that they can there, right? They progressively overloaded that to the point where it's not going any further. We could legitimately strip all that and just load into length and range. And it's almost like doing a different, they could start from square one, work their way back up through all those different progressions. And it's almost like the same exact piece of equipment used the same way, just loaded in different areas, is almost like an entirely different exercise. You know what I mean? So it's pretty cool. So this is the one that I'm an extra bitch on, like extra bitch. This is the one that I pulled my hamstring. So this one for me, I like to just go a lot lighter for a few more reps, whereas for her, I'm gonna make her work a lot harder in a shorter rep range, working sets and back off sets. Again, we gotta take into consideration where she's at, so we always have to have context within that, but again, for me, I'm gonna be a little bitch.
Yeah.
But it's just a warm up here to get the movement locked in, and then we'll go into our working sets.
Backs.
For me, I'd prefer something that gives us a little bit more stability. I mean, none of these really have.
Stability how?
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Most of these don't really have the option to have like a seatbelt. Sometimes you'll see machines that have the seatbelt, and people are like, "Why it has a seatbelt? That's stupid." It's gonna lock you in place. Because if you notice, most seated hamstring curls where you're doing them, your ass starts to slide out a little bit. I'd rather be locked in place. I'd rather have a seatbelt holding me in tight.
That's true.
Right? Yeah, and this one,
like
I just happen to slide a lot more than some of the other ones. There's one, I think it's Star Trek. Not Trek, that's a fucking...
I'll bleep it out.
He'll bleep it out. I think Star Trek, TARC, has a piece, if I'm remembering the name correctly, where there's a lot more of a slant to it. And then there's one, you know where there's one? Armburst Gym in Colorado. They have the best fucking seated hamstring curl. I don't know if it's Star Trek or not, it might be, but I don't remember the name of that piece of equipment when I was there. I've only been there once, but the seated hamstring curl there is fucking money. And then, like I said, there's a brand called Star Trek, I think that's the one that I'm thinking of, where again, they have such a slant to that seat, but it still puts you in a really good position to be able to sitting back the entire time. It's like the lumbar support is like perfect. The fucking thing is awesome. Like I love that piece. But yeah, most hamstring curls are a little bit of a bitch, but yet probably the best thing that we could do for hamstrings. I'd want people to be able to lock this in as deep as you can go. Go ahead, what were you just saying?
I had to go, actually I could still do it.
What, where, oh, it actually
under.
connects. I don't know if you can see that or not on the thing, but she actually skipped any, because she's such a skinny bitch now after prep. Because of that stability factor, right? Like you want to be tucked in there. So it's usually like for me, I'm pushing down on this for a client and they're finding that deepest rung they can connect themselves to.
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Couple more. Right there, one more. Done. And again, if she wasn't recovering from prep, we would have pushed her a little bit further there, taking advantage of the length and range a little bit more in terms of some length and partials. But given where we're at right now, we got to make sure that our number one thing for her is recovery. What else are you going to say about the seated hamstring curl? I was going to say something else, but I'm completely totally blanking, so I guess I won't say anything else. Ooh. 13. 15. 7. Come on now. Give me one more. As deep as you can take it. Come on, control it. Boom. And that's the thing. A lot of people are adverse to taking a spot. You're done. But I would much rather have somebody accept a spot and have them kind of inch their way through the zone instead of slinging the weight, right? Especially on this and or leg extension is another common one where you see this, where people will hop in, right? Just to give an example, they'll put the weight too high as they'll bring it down, and then at the bottom, right, it's coming down so far and they're trying to swing it all the way in, but at the bottom, they're literally having that pad come off their leg to a certain extent, right? And it might not be visibly noticeable how much that pad actually comes off the leg, but trust me, again, because of how much inertia you're getting into it, how much momentum is getting into that movement, it's almost as if that pad's coming off and then you're catching it when you get to the bottom there, right? So now you might get a good squeeze on that. You might feel that in the shortened position because like we were talking about earlier, with shortened movements, we're gonna get more of a connection to those. What's happening though is as you travel through that range of motion that's really valuable from a growth perspective, that length into mid-range, you're basically slingshotting that shit through that point of the motion, which is really taking away from your ability to grow. But I see that a lot on seated hamstring curls specifically. Hamstring curls, you see it all the time. People are slinging up that weight and the pad's literally going up to touch their butt. None of that is necessary when you're talking about actually getting effective amounts of growth out of the exercise. Control the weight. 7, 8, 18. Ooh. So this is a good one to be able to take advantage of those lengthened partials because it does load so well through that length into mid-range. Yeah.
Are you gonna pass out?
Nope. Okay. Deadlift time now. Let's see Marina deadlift. It's gonna be fun. The weights will give us the height that we need for her. Because if you were just going down with the bar, you would be like mentally trying to bring the bar. Yeah. Do you say mentally on YouTube?
I'll believe it.
She's gonna believe it again. Yeah, nonetheless, she looked mentally when she was squatting. I mean deadlifting.
Both. I might want straps. This
yes, definitely straps.
This feels weird.
People, again, that's something for some reason people get a hard on about having straps or not having straps. The reality is I don't want to be limited by my grip.
What? How do you do it?
Go ahead, go down, all the way down. All right, now extend your knees before you pull up. Don't pull up. Bar stays on the ground. Arms stay where they are. Arms stay where they are. Grip, nope. Grip the bar.
You want me to grab it?
Yeah, grip the bar. Okay. Now just extend at the knees a little bit. Nope, 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 nope. That stays down. This doesn't move.
My body doesn't work that way.
Don't move here. Okay. Don't move the bar.
Okay.
Just extend your knees so your butt goes up in the air. Boom. Now from there, go ahead. Boom. Now that's the starting point. Go down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, so do you want me to go hips back first and then go back down?
No, there is no crazy bend like that. You're just going straight down, boom, and you're gonna get as little bend to the knees as you possibly can before you come back up.
Okay.
Now your knees from there. Better. Boom.
I feel like it's so awkward.
Slow down, keep going. Practice makes perfect.
Is this right?
That's not bad. It's a lot more knee bend, but let's
I'm
just.
sweating.
She's a prima donna. She really is.
I just go conventional. Why can't I just do RDLs?
Because, and see, this is the thing, right?
Yeah, so tell me why we're doing conventional and not RDLs.
We always talk about this, right? We always talk about this with clients, right? And she's going to talk to a client about this, so she needs to learn it, right? Growth is going to come from a position where you're uncomfortable first and foremost, right? So granted, the RDL is probably a better profile from a resistance training perspective, without a doubt. It's going to load efficiently as far as the glute is concerned, the length and range. It's going to hit the hamstrings to a certain extent. Again, that's going to depend on where your knee placement is. If you're a little bit more straight up through the knee or a little bit less bent in the knee, you'll hit a little bit more hamstring with that. But at the end of the day, with this, what's going to happen is you're going to get more overall posterior development. Now, I'm one where it's like I can go either way, deadlift or RDL, honestly. But I think when it comes down to like overall posterior growth, I know a lot of people might want to argue the value of deadlifting off the floor, right? Again, very neurologically demanding. It has a very tough ratio when you're talking about, you know, stimulus versus fatigue, right? And all that means is like, at the end of the day, we're gonna require a lot of fatigue, especially as it relates to the amount of spinal loading we're gonna get through this, which we have to consider that throughout the course of the week when we're programming for a client, right? So this demands a lot and a lot of recovery. With that being said, it also puts out a lot as far as stimulus is concerned when it comes to growth. So for me, when it comes to the RDL, fine. As far as the lower body is concerned, great movement, awesome movement, would never minimize it at all. But when it comes to just sheer overall overall development in the posterior chain, which isn't going to be all the time that we need that, especially from a bikini competitor's perspective, right? But I want you to improve the back. I want you to improve the quads. I mean, the hamstrings. I want you to improve the glutes all around.
Yeah.
And I think this is just going to be a good movement to be able to load effectively, right? What are you going to be able to load more, most realistically? A conventional deadlift off the floor or an RDL? Probably conventional deadlift off the floor. So again, it's going to allow you to lift more load, and it's an exercise in Marina's case specifically that she hasn't focused on ever. So there's going to be a lot more progressions to be had, and a lot more stimulus even still, right? Because she hasn't used this, so there's going to be that developmental curve for her that she can take advantage of right now during a growth phase. And again, right now, is it a smart thing to be deadlifting right after a show? Probably not, but that's also why we're not going to go fucking crazy for her. So now she's going to be deadlifting 225 right out of the gate. She's got fucking 10 pounds on each side. So stop acting like a baby and hit his head.
I wish these were pink.
The way that somebody sets up for a deadlift is another thing super confusing for people. It's going to be based off of your structure, right? Nobody has a similar structure. So for me, because my lever lengths might be a little bit shorter, my tibia might be, my femurs might be a little bit shorter. You know, the reality is for me, my deadlift stance, my conventional deadlift stance might look more like this, where I'm a little bit more extended at the knee, like we were talking about before, and now my glutes are in a good position, my spinal erectors are in a good position to be a stabilizer as I come up. For her, she might need to bend a little bit more at the knees. That way she doesn't have a, she's not rounding at the spine too much before she starts to pull up, right? So we're gonna have to work with that a little bit and figure out where you're most comfortable. But see, right there, we'd like to see less bend in the knee.
What?
Keep going, don't stop.
Wait.
There you go, that's a pretty good, nope, stand up, boom, that's probably a pretty good position there. Like right there, if you look, go ahead.
All the way down?
Yep. She doesn't have any real rounding of the spine there. You can brace, make sure that the abs are tight. I don't see anything wrong with that whatsoever. Boom. Keep going. 5 more. 5. 4. Get explosive on the way up.
All right,
Explode. Boom. Squeeze the glutes to the top, slowly lower it down. Explode. Now mind your eccentric and slowly lower it down. All the way, now explode back up. Boom, now rest. Done, easy peasy. As we already covered with the seated hamstrings, right? I'm fucking old. You know what I mean? And it's true. I'm like, some people say that. I'm like, I'm fucking old. You know what I mean? I'm decrepit, especially as it relates to like training age, right? Like some people say they're old and they're like 35 years old, but they've only been training for like 6 or 7 years. I've been training like fucking, you know, and you know, obviously it didn't help me very much. I'm still tiny, but I've been training since I was in fucking, without a doubt, senior year of high school is when I started training. And did I stick to training then to 100%? No, I trained really hard. I loved it. But then I kind of faded in and out as I graduated high school and wanted to do nothing but drink and smoke a lot of pot and do all that kind of cool stuff like you do when you're 18, 19, 20 years old and you didn't go to college like I did. So, you know, but there was a certain point there, I think it was like around 19, where I picked up training, and I have not dropped training at all ever since. Like, unless my body was like, you know, unless I was dealing with an injury, you know, I had an issue with hormones when I was younger that I kind of had to work my way through. But the bottom line of my point here is my training age is old. I'm that guy where I literally like, I'm almost 40, and I'm already like bringing around my phone to show people videos of like, you know, 2016 when I was like deadlifting 4 plates for like 23 reps. I used to do that when I
was your age.
Yeah, seriously, that's me. I swear to God. And like, but I'm lucky enough where it's like I live in 2023, so like most of those guys are like 75 years old and they're either lying or there's no proof of it because, you know, they were like fucking, all they had was like maybe like Polaroid cameras back in the day, like super old, like black and white things that they had to like light up with a lighter and shit. But I actually have it on my phone. So like I'm the guy where like I can walk around, like spend like 20 minutes just showing you like old videos, you know what I mean? Like I used to do this stuff. It was cool, you know? But nowadays, not so much, not so much. Now I just worry about whether my back's gonna break halfway through or not. While I'm going here, and then I promise we'll train more and stop talking, is again, if you look at my positioning, because of my limb lengths, because of the way that I'm built anatomically, right? Like I can get in this position and it's almost a perfect position where I see so many people, they feel like they have to do this.
That's what I
The only reason why you want to do this is either because of your limb lengths, right? Which is fine, and it might put you in a better position, but it's also because you can lift more weight like this, right? Where am I gonna lift more weight? When I'm putting myself in a position where my back automatically has to take into consideration, and where my hamstrings versus taking the brunt of the load through my knees in terms of knee extension, right? So through my quads is more realistically, right? You're gonna be able to squat up a lot more weight than you could purely deadlift up. So if you're the person that's like bending through that, you're reducing the amount of impact you can have on your posterior chain for the sake of lifting more weight. And I don't care what your grip strength is, you know what I mean? I can care less. I know some people get obsessed with that shit, 2 more. I could care less what the grip strength is. That's it, that's the last one, rest.
What?
Rest. I could see, she was grimacing. All right, we wanna stay away from failure. We're trying to work this up. It's a new movement, yada, yada, yada. I don't care, like I said before, how many pickle jars somebody can open. I don't care what your forearm strength is. I just wanna make sure that we can lift the weight that we need to lift. So again, all the, I said it again, all the assholes that are out there that are worried about grip strength, like I'd rather wear straps and worry about how much muscle we're building in our glutes and hamstrings than worry about how much strength I'm building in my forearms. I don't give a shit. So I know there's like the whole third wall thing that I'm supposed to be mindful of, but our cameraman is just too damn lovely to keep him out of the conversation, right? Chris was just saying I should probably explain why I'm not wearing shoes. No real technical reason. I know some people like to think like, you know, flat shoes this, or, you know, an arch in your foot that, and like all this different shit for deadlifts. It's just a comfortability thing for me. Honestly, I've always deadlifted with barefoot. I'm sure at some point I probably thought it was beneficial in some way, shape, or form. But Vans, which you're both wearing, probably perfectly fine for deadlifting. But yeah, I just honestly, I don't know why, I'm just more comfortable that way. Oh, that was awful. For the leg presses, I always like to use a band, right? That's not like reverse banding like a lot of people like to do. With shit like this, it's actually gonna accommodate as far as resistance is concerned, like it's adding to the resistance, just because I don't wanna load a whole bunch of fucking plates. There's no reason why. And this has a limited amount of plates you put on there anyway. These is like 9 plates it's gonna hold max. So at a certain point, somebody might need those bands to be able to progress it forward anyway.
Yeah, because I usually do like 12 plates.
1 set here, so we had 3 sets on the lying ham curls, 2 sets on the seated ham curls. It's supposed to be 2 sets of deadlifts, conventional deadlifts, and then we got 1 set here, which this is just a warm up. 4, 5.
Oh.
You're all right. Done. Forget it. I don't have enough energy left to spot you, so if we die, we die. 9, turn your tempo up a little bit, all the way through. 10, pump them out. Come on, come on.
Ah!
Couple more. 1 more. Rack. The one thing you want to be careful with when you're doing sets like this, remember for her, it's been a while. And honestly, it's not like she's 100% right now as far as comfortability is concerned when she's training in general. She's all, you know, joints are probably a little achy. She was a fucking smaller this show than she was our first show in 2019, 2018, whatever it was.
2019, yeah.
2019. So, you know, her body's got a lot to come back from. But the one that you want to be careful with, and the one that everybody should be careful with when you're doing a set like that, especially on a leg press or a squat or something along those lines, remember, your brain's going to give out way before your legs are. And what happened there was she started to shorten up her range of motion towards the end, where her reps, I'm fine with somebody speeding up their reps a little bit, which I know is like, you're breaking tempo, yada, yeah, fine. But like, you're going to reach that point of fatigue here where they have to call on the where we have to call on the highest level motor units, right? So that's all we're trying to do here is take that set, that 1 set to the highest point possible. But the last thing I'd want to do is reduce my range of motion. I don't care about speeding up the rep, you know, whatever, maybe not pausing as much at the bottom. You know, these, in my opinion, are little nuances, which if we're being really picky for progression, we want to be careful with. But overall, I'm fine with those going, you know, by the wayside a little bit in the middle of a set, this extreme. But the one thing I wouldn't want to happen is that range of motion start to slow down. Remember, you're never going to get strong in a range of motion that you're not training in. You know what I mean? And if the goal here on this, a pivot press, is to hit those glutes most effectively, which is what we're using this for, this to me is the best glute movement you could do. Bottom line, it's going to load heaviest in that lengthened position, heavier than anything else I can think of. right, as far as glutes are concerned. So don't reduce that range at the bottom because you're trying to like pump out a couple more reps. Get that full range of motion. And again, if something else has to fail a little bit, like the tempo that you're going at or whatever, that's fine relative to shortening that range of motion. So I know we said posterior day multiple times, and it's true for Marina, but for me, this is 1 of 2 of my leg days where this one is posterior dominant, so we start off there. But as we go from the pivot press, I like to finish off with these, right? So we start with calves, hamstrings, lying hamstring, seated hamstring, deadlifts, pivot press, and then these guys to really get a little bit more volume in the quads. For Marina though, because we really need to focus on her posterior, obviously different goals, right? We're gonna put her on the seated abduction machine that we'll go over when we get there for her. But basically all that comes down to is that that machine is gonna be a little bit less taxing from a fatigue perspective, right? Versus a movement like this. And you'll see for me, I don't like to go too much here. We just did an AMRAP set on the pivot press. So I'll start with a warm up here and then just go into 12, 10, 8 with, like I said before, 1 to 3 RIR. So 1 to 3 reps left in the tank at the end of each set. Maybe pushing a little bit past that to just 1 RIR on my last set of 8. But again, for me, a little bit more anterior work to finish off for her. We're gonna keep to the posterior. So we'll head over and hit some adductors for her. So again, now we're hitting these seated abductors for her. We're gonna I would go 15, 12, 10 on this for you. All right, so 15 reps here. What is this, 5?
4.
4. We have this set in loading the length and range here. That's typically where these machines are easiest. They get harder as we open up. All right, so again, we're gonna load in that length and range. But this just gives us an exercise at the tail end of the workout here where it's still gonna hit the area specifically she needs to improve, that upper glute area. But at the same time, a lot lower fatigue that she's gonna build up on this. So after such a, heavy pivot press, heavy deadlifts, hard couple working sets on this seated hamstring curl, this is gonna be perfect to finish off on. So that's it for us. And like we said at the beginning, how you feel now?
Good, got a good pump, but I'm definitely excited to push.
Which I'm not gonna let her push. Not yet.
Not yet, not yet.
We'll push little by little. We pushed a little bit today. We'll push little by little, but today is a perfect example of where she should be, or where anybody should be immediately post-show, especially if that show brought you to new heights as far as conditioning is concerned. Today I think you did what, 11, 12 sets? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 sets 11. In total. Like not counting warm-up sets and shit. It was 11 working sets, right? So, and not all of them to failure, obviously, only a few to failure. Or only a few even close to failure, yeah.
No, I wouldn't.
So, exactly where she needs to be. And for me, same thing, honestly. I'm working back. My left knee has been bothering me for some time. I actually had a prescription lapse. So I guess full transparency, right? Like like growth hormone is something that I've been on for a long time. I know growth hormone's easily like, for growth, fat loss, all that different stuff. Yes, 100%, and it helps with that, helped me with that. But for me, it was really because my joints have 2 bad shoulders, the knee, and as soon as that prescription lapsed, things started to go haywire there a little bit again. So luckily I got my prescription back. Everything's starting to come back to life now where I'm actually able to train on that knee. So today was kind of like pushing my way back up on that pivot press with 7 plates and a band for what, 24 reps, 23 reps, something like that, somewhere in that range. And then I was able to do that hack squat for the first time with no pain, going up to 4 plates there, which is, I mean, there was a little bit of pain, but nothing crazy. So again, pretty good leg day given where we're coming from. But obviously the goal now is for her to grow. So we have specific areas that we're trying to bring up, right, that we know we need to bring up, but it was also judges' recommendations. So, and ultimately what we'd be growing anyway, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, for that category,
you can't have big enough glutes.
Or delts, for that matter.
Exactly.
Right? Like at the end of the day, you know, if you're going to be in a specific division, you should probably be training for that specific division. And when it comes to the bikini competitor, that's what we're going to be focusing on one way or the other. But right now, we have our work cut out for us as far as bringing a better physique next year. And I think that's one thing, you know, that we always want to accomplish from a bodybuilding perspective overall, is always trying to bring a new package. So I'm excited, and I think, you know, this will be the first video of many to be able to show you guys like what we're doing with training. We'll get the other coaches involved, like Riley and Issa, as they're both, you know, either right in the middle of their off season or just starting an off season. In Issa's case, Issa again was on a national stage this year, you know, on 3 occasions. And you know, always finished within the top 4 there. So she's pushing for that card next year. Riley will step on the national stage for the first time next year. Then obviously we'll get Marina on there as well. So it's all about development for those 3 right now. So it'll be an interesting ride over the course of the next few months, finishing off their off seasons, getting started in their off seasons, and we want to bring you guys along with us. Anything else you want to add?
No.
Fuck yeah.
I'm just excited.
There you go. So, but listen, we're excited to bring a lot more, I hate the word content. We're excited to film a lot more for you guys.
Yeah.
So we'll be doing that.
Inside scoop.
Yeah. So we appreciate you guys checking it out, but do all that cool stuff. Like, subscribe, share, all that cool stuff for us. We appreciate it.